eventually you get absorbed in and you are Sonic.
Hey everybody, get on down on the floor because it's time for another episode of No Repeat, the podcast where we pick 3 songs every week with no repeats, no do-overs, all bangers for the perfect playlist for every occasion that life throws at you. I'm Taylor Olmstead, your MC for tonight's battle, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, my featured guests, Tyler Reed.
And do the dinosaur?
And Sean Evans.
Yep. Yeah, exactly to what Tyler said.
Are the dinosaurs dancing in particular? What's the dinosaur dance? Do we know?
I don't think anyone really knows. Well, Tyler, what was our challenge this week?
This week you were trying to find the perfect song for when the final boss is a dance battle, submitted by me. And if you hate my challenges and think you could do better, you can DM us, add us, No Repeat Pod on Instagram and Twitter, or email the arcade arts, sacred, ancient technology, norepeatpod@gmail.com. Thanks so much.
All right, so you fought your way through the dungeon, you've beaten the mid-boss, you've killed all the guards, and now you've reached the final level of the game, the final stage. And there it is, the big boss, and you best believe it's a dance-off. Now, we've talked about dance-offs before on the podcast, and I like to think that there are many ways for the dance-off to play out. You know, there's like a b-boy dance-off, like break dancing. There's kind of like a call and response where one person dances and the other person dances. There's like where the dance gets more complicated as it goes or faster as it goes. Like there are lots of ways for the dance battle to play out. So I was curious as I was picking my song, what your guys' like rules for this dance battle were. Like, how does this battle operate?
I developed lore.
Yes, you did. Always.
I always do. This is going to be one of those episodes where I become vulnerable and then everyone makes fun of me. Do we want to... Is now the time to unveil my character?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I would say... I don't know if I have a name for this creature yet, but I feel like the final boss battle is you're fighting this tremendous dragon, you know, atop a hoard of gold. And so, you know, you cast him down. He's on his deathbed. You know, he's almost been defeated, but he picks up this chalice, his golden chalice, and starts to drink this golden goo, and slowly his body starts to compress and turn into a new form, in which he becomes this, you know, no longer a powerful dragon, but a sort of entombed in gold and glamorous armor, this knight who also happens to be wearing incredibly attractive heels. And it says, no longer are we doing a battle of fisticuffs, but now it is a battle of the dance. And so I really just wanted something that I felt like that felt intense, because this isn't like, you know, like the Fairy King at level 2, you know, where it's like fanciful and cute. You know, this isn't like, you know, like the Dwarven Tavern Brawl at level 5, where there's lots of fisticuffs and everyone's having a good time. It's a jolly battle. You know, I wanted to feel intense and like really emphasize the finality of it. You know, like this is the last fight. You win this, it's all yours.
Sean, what was your approach here?
I went with more of the Scott Pilgrim Mortal Kombat kind of dance-off thing, where it was like you get a turn, the other one gets a turn, and then, you know, not Smash Brothers-esque where you're like dancing at the same time, kind of like fight dancing. Very like old school dance battle. I'm trying to think, like, have you seen like the Red Bull dance-offs?
Yeah.
That kind of like that.
See, that's interesting because I was also thinking of the end of Scott Pilgrim, but I went in a different direction where I was thinking about the seminal arcade classic Dance Dance Revolution. And I'm imagining, like, if you were going to make a Scott Pilgrim today, the final sequence would probably be even more Dance Dance Revolution than it is in the movie that came out in whatever that was, like 2008. Because I think like the nostalgia for that game has only increased.
Yeah.
And I kind of just love the idea of like, even if it's not like a Scott Pilgrim, like in some kind of comedy, I can imagine like the final climactic encounter being a DDR session. Like that just seems very funny and fun.
I think what makes DDR so fun is that it's a simultaneous battle, like because you are competing against the same notes on top of each other and trying to hit them in the best way possible. And there's such a lovely rhythm, like the feet stomping in unison is so like interesting, especially because like if you're messing up, you know, like there is going to be like that dissonance of it, and I feel like that really adds like an extra level of tension as like from like the cinematic perspective of it.
Yeah, and I think there's something fun about like the lowest high stakes ever, right? Like when you see a DDR machine in the wild, which I don't know if our listeners probably have, because our listeners are probably mostly our age, but I feel like the youths may not have seen it. Like, it's a TV screen, and then the two stations are literally right next to each other with like a safety rail behind. And that's it. And so you're like inches from the person. And I think there's something so interesting about like the final boss battle. Instead of like facing down, you're both like staring forward. You're like staring forward intently at the screen, like sweating and like trying to focus. And you're like, I can't miss any of these moves, because if I miss just one, I'm out.
The worst part is that the boss is just looking right at you the whole time, though.
They're like...
He knows them.
They're like stone cold, like looking over at you sideways while you're like trying to like do everything correct. I'm just remembering those like DDR... I was going to say, the DDR pros that like would have their hands on the rail behind them as they're hitting all the things with their feet. Just like powerful energy.
There was a guy I went to high school with who was in my small school, and I remember he kind of like, we didn't really run in the same circles, and he kind of had his own friend group, which was great. But one night we were at the mall, and I just wasn't expecting to see him playing a DDR machine, but he was like so good at it. He was like one of those guys that would like hold on to the rail and just like go to town on it. It was amazing. I was so impressed. I remember like I didn't want to go over and say anything because first off, it was high school. I should have been nicer. But second off, he was just in the zone. Like it was like right before closing of the mall too. Like he was there definitely on a mission to do this, and I was like blown away. Very impressive.
Yeah, if you've never gone down a YouTube rabbit hole and watched like championship level Dance Dance Revolution, folks, go ahead and do it. I'll put a link in the show notes, but it's one of the more wholesome, fun YouTube rabbit holes you can go down.
Which is also to say that like as much as DDR is about as loose as you could get as to like what dancing is, like it's like,
well, and that's why I like Sean's
you are
as
dancing,
like,
but
I like Sean's rules as an alternative. Like again, another great YouTube rabbit hole. If you go down like the Red Bull Dance Championships, like that is feats of human flexibility and strength in a way that DDR is not, but they are both still, you know, very powerful. So then when you're trying to pick songs for these, how do you go about doing that? Because we're all doing different things, but I feel like the dance battle song has to have like some similarity, right? That makes it a dance battle song.
Yeah. I tried to think of like what we did with the past episodes and how we talked about different forms of dance music and how there's different sorts of beats that went with it. So I wanted to find an up-tempo song, and I wanted to imagine, because that's what I have to do. I literally have to imagine how video games work. I don't have that much experience to actually know. It's imagine to yourself personally that my experience with video games is how someone else portrays video games in movies. So I imagine how somebody else reimagines it inside of an imagined environment. So I wanted to soundtrack that. I just thought, oh, that would be kind of cool. Just like a warning for the audience, because you won't know until it's brought up later. But I definitely struck out twice and picked 2 songs I had already picked. This is the problem with being in episode 206. Like, it's not that I've run out of stuff. I just have it in my mind and I'm like, that's what I would pick for my movie. And then I went back and, found some other ones. I found one that I actually was like, wow, that's like stupid low-hanging fruit that no one would actually pick for a video game. It was like too stupidly obvious. So I changed my way there, but that's kind of what I was going for.
See, I came in with like a pretty defined notion of what I wanted, but that was like phase 2 of my process. Phase 1 of my process was like, I took dance songs that I liked, started making a list, and then I did the thing where you just like create a station based on that song.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I was like doing that for a while, but it just kept playing like, all the stuff that you would expect. Like, I'm not going to pick the Rockefeller Skank by Fatboy Slim.
No.
I mean, it's a great track. It's a classic, but it's not what I was after here. I wanted something that was, like, not as memey as a song. Like,
right.
Something that is familiar, but that, like, could still have something that, like, set it apart if you're, like, using it in a boss battle,
Yeah.
And that was hard because a lot of the best dance tracks lately have been very nostalgia based. And so I've been like, I was towing this line of like, how nostalgic do I get? And do I like go for like a Beyonce approach where you're just like recycling a classic sound? Or do I like, do something more avant-garde? But then I was like, how do you dance to this? Like, I ended up kind of trying to find like the middle ground.
I really wanted to sort of invoke a sense of like darkness. Like I said, it was kind of already like a song that kind of was like, my preamble was like, I wanted this to feel intense, I wanted to feel powerful, and so like I feel like I really kind of wanted to draw from like a dark place. I really have to listen to more Danny Brown. Sorry, but I feel like Ain't It Funny was like a core track, like was like my first like thought, because I love the repetition of it. I think the beat is like really sick. And it sort of like feels like ominous. It feels like creepy. It feels like it has like an ominous sense to it. And so I wanted a song that felt evil. A song that had like a that could really like put fear into your heart. And so like I feel like there's lots of really easy artists that like I probably could have pulled from like Carpenter Brute, Dance with the Dead, like the whole like dark synth, like nightcore, like retro outrun, sort of like this is like video game adjacent music. Like that's, I feel like that would be a little too easy. I kind of want something that had like, just feel like I wanted something that felt like that I feel like stood out or had like a really unique element that I feel like I could really like create like a lore behind, or like some sort of extra narrative around that. And I feel like classical, I feel like if you can like sample or use like any sort of like any like sort of samples in general, I feel like it's going to be really fun, especially if it's like from like something that is like a classical work or something from that is like a known media that can kind of like instill, like that can kind of like add that extra like layer into it. I feel like was where I kind of wanted to head.
Well, Tyler, I think you might as well just go ahead and go first.
Yeah, I might
Since
as well.
You've spun us this whole world, created this tapestry.
Oh, yeah.
For us.
This week I chose Stress by Justice. All right, finally on the playlist, Justice, that other French duo that makes electronic music. I feel like I've always really enjoyed Justice for like they're really sort of like I've really enjoyed Justice for their guitar centric, almost like hard rock sort of like vibe. Like I feel like if you imagine like they feel like almost an opposite side of a coin to Daft Punk, where I feel like they're so much more funky, so much more boogie, so much more groovy, where I feel like Justice is also sort of like playing in that space a little bit, but it's a little bit, has a little bit of a harder grit to it. And I've always really enjoyed that part of them. And so Stress is from their first album, which, as some people say, is like the best album. Every album after that kind of like goes down in quality because they kind of go into less of a dance club sort of like vibe and more into like a rock, like electronic rock focus. But so Stress was actually not even on my radar. Like I think this album's fine. It's not like probably one of my favorites, but like it just sort of like popped up on sort of like my general search when I was kind of looking for more tracks, and it just hit me almost immediately. I was like, this is it. It does use a sample from Night on Disco Mountain, which is also samples the Night on Bald Mountain, which is, yeah, so like it has that classical element I was really like looking for. But I think what really sells this as like my song for like this final dance battle is that I think it does have that sort of that classical element, so it feels like it has like it's in a place, feels like it's from something, feels like it almost has like a fantasy element to it. But it is a relentless song. This song just goes like, and it almost does like it goes like it kind of just does the same thing over and over again, and which really makes it good for a dance battle where it's just kind of a beat that you're dancing on top of. But I think the little flourishes that they add in there, I think are really kind of fun and really kind of add like a nice little break to the sort of like the tension of this. So I feel like it's not necessarily a song I want to like listen to literally all the time, because it is literally stressful. It is like I've listened to it over and over again quite a few times, and I'm like, I don't know how much more I can actually listen to the song, but I feel like it just does such a good job of physically making me feel tension. And so like I feel like as like a final boss battle, I feel like it's perfect.
Yeah, man, this is ominous. It's dark. It is, like you said, a polar opposite of Daft Punk. Yeah. And yet still in the same French house movement. And people who are only familiar with Justice through their song DNCE, you're in for a rude awakening with this one.
Yeah.
Another single from the same album, but boy, oh boy, is it different. I really dig this track, but it's definitely an acquired taste. I was playing it after dinner, getting ready for the show, and my fiance was like, boy, I hate every second of this.
Perfect.
And I was like, yeah, blame Tyler. Good. But I think for this challenge, it totally works. Like, I can see the like dark castle dance battle happening here. I think it really like does a good job of having variations in the second half.
Yeah.
The first half gets a little samey, which is, you know, it's kind of a standard house trope, right? Like the songs are supposed to be samey on purpose because it's all like descended from trance and everything, but this sample in particular is so shrill that like,
yes,
you need a little less of it. And in the second half of the song where they're doing these change ups on it and like bringing in more bass, it really works. The problem is you have to get through like a minute and a half of just like gratingly high pitched strings to get there. And so I think if I were going to use this in like something, I would probably just fade in about a minute and a half in. Mm-hmm. Because the second half of this is awesome.
Yeah. I was looking for there's quite a few different versions of this too. Like they've like recut it, done like some different things with it, but I feel like this one really just really does get the most stress out of it. Because I feel like my only real like complaint with this is that it ends sort of abruptly just because it leads into something else.
That's the hard part with all of these tracks of this era though, is like they were all written to be part of like album long mixes, and they don't isolate very well.
Yeah, I think I like the song. It's a little off-putting though, because like Taylor spoke about, I don't know if I would describe them as strings as much as I think they sound like alarms.
Interesting.
So it sets a tone in my mind immediately that there's an urgency, but I don't know if it's necessarily 5 minutes of urgency. I just kept waiting for it to develop a little bit, and it didn't. I think it definitely serves the purpose for what you're trying to get at. It's more of a thing for the song, and maybe it's because I haven't listened to a lot of their music, or maybe I don't understand the genre that much, because it kind of sounds like, if I'm getting the context clues from what Taylor's saying, that a lot of stuff sounds like this by them, by Justice, or a lot of dance music from this time kind of has this sound element.
This very like throbbing sensation. Yeah.
Right. And Tyler, I like what you did here by just describing it as like a more metal feel, because it does have a more, maybe metal's not the right word, but it has like a nice gothic feel to it. It's a little darker, right? It's not, I wouldn't describe this as like poppy dance music.
Oh, no.
Which I think lends it nicely to being battle music. If it was just like boop ba bop ba beep bop 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 bop, you'd be like, I don't know what's happening here. Like, is Jigglypuff going against, anti-Jigglypuff? It's just
no, but I will say that even if you're kind of like mid or like don't actually like this song, I would say that you should probably listen to Justice anyway, because all of the songs are basically different. Like, I would say this is not like necessarily the norm in any capacity. This is like, I think that is kind of like one of their real strong benefits is that I feel like they really do have interesting compositions that are pretty varied and unique. So it's like, you just don't have to listen to this. Is probably gonna be a skipper from here on out after this, because I've listened to it like 10 plus times. So,
well, Sean, do you want to go next?
Yeah, that'd be great. So this week I chose Dangerous Chapo Remix by Big Data. A lot happening right there. So I didn't listen to Tyler and Taylor's song before I picked this one. I've known this song's been probably in my playlist since it's probably 8 or 9 years old, the original Dangerous song. But I wanted to find a remix because I feel like there was probably something a little harder, something that fit more of what I wanted in that Scott Pilgrim vein, that had a little bit of a Mad Men-esque vibe. And sometimes when I think about remixes, I think of it being a little bit more laser gun sounds and techno-y. I wanted to see if there was... I like this one because it has more of a funk feel. And I thought that would lend itself better to a dance battle that had a little bit more flow to it than just being like somebody windmilling and doing some of that, like that Red Bull kind of dance battle thing. This is very much stylized, but still has some of those classic dance elements, and maybe like a little bit of disco. Like before you go into the pre-chorus, there's like some choral disco vibe there, like Staying Alive kind of thing. And I thought that was cool. I feel like this song has the right kind of vibe for me.
I find this very challenging because I'm so familiar with the original song. And the original song has such a defined bass line. Like, I remember when you got into this song and also being very obsessed with it. And I have a really hard time hearing these vocals over top of any other bass line because it just, like, it feels wrong. But I think that's a me thing. I think when I look at this with, like, the Red Bull Dance Your Style competition, totally, absolutely. Like, a combination of, like, breakdancing and kind of, like, fluid, like, modern dance movement to this track could be really cool. And the way that it changes styles throughout, where it has a disco section and then it has kind of a psychedelic rock section, like, that's really cool, and it gives a lot of opportunities for fun dance stuff. I think it's just, personally, I'm like, the original is good too. Like, you could have a dance battle to the original, but I think this one probably gives you more creative options as a dancer.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, when you go into the bridge and it kind of has this Beck feeling, but also a little bit like the intro to Portlandia, and then if you know what the original is, you're like, wow, this is a real divergence from that. Like, I think you get the gist of it, but it's not really close
this
to
is
the
a
same.
true remix of a rock song in a way that we don't hear very often, which is cool. I like that Chapo took big risks with this, and I feel like they paid off.
So I had no idea what the song was before this, so whoops. So I have nothing to compare it to. But I mean,
Well, that's cool. But what do you think, though? This is nice because you haven't heard it, so you can honestly say, like, yeah, what'd you think?
The first beat of the guitar riff is like, it's already gets me invested. Like I feel like it starts and I'm like, yeah, I get it. I was like, you know, like sometimes I feel like you see the song, you click on the YouTube video, you're like, all right, what are we in for? It's like, all right, it takes a minute to kind of get into like, all right, what's Sean thinking about? But I feel like this was like instantly, I was like, okay, I get it. You know, neither of you were gonna understand this reference, but I feel like you had said sort of like a Mad Men kind of vibe, or it's like, you know, I imagine like almost like a Spike Spiegel, Cowboy Bebop type character who is sort of like tuxedoed, but, you know, sort of like a little disheveled, but is sort of able to smooth on his feet, a little gun fu or whatnot, you know, just kind of like a smooth talking kind of character, you know, a little bit like an Ocean's 11 sort of vibe, you know, is kind of like sort of the attitude I kind of got from this. But no, I don't think necessarily that everyone's final boss battle has to be cataclysmic or even like be super like necessarily like intense in this way. Because I feel like there can be a real like cinematic quality to it, sort of having like this glistening, sort of like shimmering, sort of like you said, this chorus, this sort of like midpoint is almost sort of like a break or sort of like a change in perspective, and I can sort of see how you know, like, this doesn't have to be as like deadlocked into a specific combat, right? It's like this could just be sort of like these two figures like putting it all on the line and really dancing, like, or like putting their moves all out on the dance floor, and I can like almost like the elegance of it, and that doesn't necessarily always have to be like vicious or angry. So I really enjoy sort of like the contrasting sounds here, right? Because like I feel like the guitar riff is just so like, I'm almost calling it a guitar beat, because that's kind of what it's using the guitar in a very percussive way, which makes a lot of sense for you. Call back to Merlin. Thanks, Merlin, for seeing through the Sean soul in a way that we weren't able to. But no, I think this is really cool. I think it's a cool song, and this was not a perspective I feel like I would have had for this challenge. So I enjoy it.
All right, well, that just leaves me, and my pick this week is "I'm Good" Blue by David Guetta and Bebe Rexha.
Baby, don't you know I'm good? Yeah, I'm feeling alright. 'Cause I'm good, I'm feeling alright. Baby, I'ma have the best freaking night of my life. And wherever it takes me, I'm down for the ride. Baby, don't you know I'm good? Yeah, I'm feeling alright. Don't you know I'm good? Yeah, I'm feeling alright.
So like I said, I'm on that DDR nostalgia trip, and boy oh boy is this that. You know, big time house dance producer of the last 10 years, David Guetta, teamed up with unsung hero of modern pop music, Bebe Rexha, who has co-written some of your favorite pop songs of the last 10 years. You just never realized it. And they did this fun, like, modern EDM take on Eiffel 65's Blue, where they also made it into like a millennial party anthem. And I can totally see this in like a stupid comedy as like the final dance battle song because it's playing on that millennial nostalgia, but it's also like a legitimately highly produced pop house song. It's got big beat drops. It's got those synths that everybody knows and remembers from the original Blue. But David Guetta has done a lot to this. And I usually don't like his production that much. I typically find it kind of hacky. But there's something about taking a song that's so well known and so cheesy and then redoing it that like his hackiness works here in a way where a lot of the time I feel like he's like fighting against himself and like throwing the kitchen sink at all of his songs. This song needs everything. It needs every hand clap, every snare hit. It needs those ridiculous high pitch pad synths. Like, just go all in. We all know it's Blue. And that's why I think it's funny. It's like, I watched an interview this week about the new Weird Al Yankovic movie, which is a completely fictionalized biopic about Weird Al, but everyone in it plays it completely straight as if all of this happened. That's the energy this song has. It's playing it completely straight, even though it knows how ridiculous it's being. And I think a dance battle that is like that serious, it's like shot like a sports documentary to this song, would be so funny.
So it's supposed to be funny.
Oh yeah, it's intentionally camp, for sure.
Okay. I feel like that was the extra context I needed, because I'm like, Taylor, what are you doing, buddy? What's
I'm just trying to
going
have
on?
the best fucking night of my life.
Yeah,
I'm good. I'm feeling all
everyone
right.
believes you. I don't feel like there's any. That's not up for a debate. I think it's very clear that we're gonna have the greatest night of our lives. I guess for like a sort of like rom-com, end of the world. I get it. You know, like, it doesn't have to always be. I like Sean's song was also not a fantasy medieval battleground. This could just be with Jared at the office who's trying to steal your girl, and you're like, well, you know, in 2022 we don't really necessarily fight for our love in this kind of way, but you know, for the sake of a romantic comedy, just this once we could have a dance battle to this parody of Eiffel 65.
I wouldn't call it a parody. I would call it an homage.
An homage. Do you like this song on purpose?
Okay, here's the thing. It came on when I was running this week because it's on all of Apple's like cardio playlists right now.
Oh yeah, this song would have hit nice.
Oh man, this is a great workout song. And the more I work out to it, I'm like, you know what? I unironically love this. Because I really do love Bebe Rexha. Like, if you're not familiar with Bebe, she is awesome. And she really has, like, co-written, ghost-written so many amazing pop hits over the last few years.
Yeah.
So, like, I buy her on this in a way that, like, anybody else, I feel like it would have come across too hacky. But she plays it really understated, which I think is what makes it work for me.
I mean, I feel like it's really a song you kind of yeah. I feel like
you don't have to like it. It's fine. It's fine. I knew it was going to be a polarizing pick.
I mean, yeah. You knew what you were doing. You know, we'll see Billy Joe Armstrong's Middle School Notebook how I feel about it. I'll let it simmer. You know, I feel like I have tried to reduce my judgment time, try to be less critical early on, and let it see where things go. Listen to it. But yeah, I think for the Hangover dance battle, yeah, it sounds great.
Yeah, this definitely stars Andy Samberg.
Yeah,
This song is a jam.
yes,
The song is a good jam. I really like this. It's funny that you said it came on during the run because I would have stopped and probably hit like heart on this on Spotify just so I could find it later.
Oh, I'm like running on my watch, like trying to do it before I get to the crosswalk so I don't get hit by a car. I was like, I need this one.
Oh yeah, no, this is really good. I don't think it's necessarily the most outside of the box.
No, it's not.
song ever, but I think it works really well because it's recognizable, very recognizable, and it's redone in a way that makes it different enough. I think is Bebe Rexha is she the lyricist? Is she doing the lyrics on here? Mm-hmm. Okay, I think it's updated nicely for 2022. Is that when this was made? 2 months ago?
Yeah, it's only 2 months old.
Okay, yeah, no, I think it's updated nicely to go into the winter of 2022. I don't think you did. I don't think you did bad at all. I think Tyler's gonna come back on Billy Joe Armstrong, not to continue to plug our Patreon podcast show, but he's gonna come back and be like, "No, you know what? That was pretty good." Is it the song I want to listen to when I get up first thing in the morning to go get coffee? No, but is it the song that I'm like, I need to pump out 5 more reps here? Yes.
Such is the beauty of the podcast.
And also have a dance battle. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
This is definitely a fight dance battle song.
Oh,
like going to like
this
going
is the
to
DDR
war video game battle
championships.
where you're like Mad Max Fury Road into that dance battle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Tyler he has this face of like almost this disdain.
For those who don't know what we were talking about before, Billy Joe Armstrong's Middle School Notebook is our Patreon podcast where if you pay us just $1 a month, you get to hear our second thoughts about the songs a few weeks later as we've marinated on them. And we also talk about what other music we're listening to outside of the challenges for the show. So if you want to hear more of us once a month, just $1 a month on Patreon.
And we can
But Sean, what's next? What do you have for us?
Well, now it's time for listener submissions. And man, there's only 3, but there are some doozies on this one that I think if you have a moment we should talk about. So this is 206 Dance Battle. First one is at Puppy Bowtie. Picked One Wing Angel from Final Fantasy VII. Prelude to this, seasoned listeners might know that I generally dislike most songs that are over 5 minutes long. When I looked the song up on YouTube, I'm pretty sure the number was like 29, 30 something seconds long of this song, which is only about 27 minutes too long. But this is like straight out of a video game. Yeah.
I mean it is.
Yeah.
But it would totally work.
Trombone Champ.
Oh, no. Don't look at that. We're going to talk about Trombone Champ on Billy Joe Armstrong's Middle School Notebook.
Okay.
Don't you worry.
Don't look at it now. Okay.
Save it for later. What else do we have?
Yep. So the second was at Stupid Clown Baby with Change Your Heart or Die by The Midnight, which I'm listening to right now and is a very good song. Definitely that remade 80s sound that's super tacky, but tacky in all the right ways. It basically just pick all like the greatest hits of 80s pop metal and 808 drums, and it basically just hammers on that. It's so bad it's great.
We have a challenge that's been sitting in the sheet for a while about picking songs that sound like this band. I think that could be fun, especially if we have to go back to the 80s to pick songs.
Yeah.
They have such a cool sound.
So, yeah, cool song. And then the last one is, hold on, let me read the listener. Rory Snake picked 5678 by The Steps, and it says, it's an old DDR song, enjoy, period. And I don't understand how this got on there. Just to kind of like upfront this, it's basically... I'm laughing because it's so comical what I'm about to say to you. You're never going to believe me. But it's... it's like if Aqua did a country album.
Eurobeat was a wild genre, man. We've talked about Eurobeat many times before, but boy, this is an example of it, huh?
The 90s are great, actually. You combine the two great. You take the most American thing you can with the most European thing you can. You say, let's put them in a Japanese dancing video game.
Look, just because you're from Switzerland doesn't mean that your boot scooting baby can't be driving you crazy.
Like, they're playing pool in this music video, but it's unclear. It's like not even pool. It's like snooker or something like that.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
All right. So with that, it's time for our picks. B-sides. You got them. People want to hear them. Go for it.
I will eventually get House of Jealous Lovers by The Rapture on this playlist. This week was not that week. Block Rockin' Beats by the Chemical Brothers, 90s dance classic, but just a little too repetitive. I Love to Move in Here by Moby, a fun disco house track. And then Weird Sleeper B-side, my second choice, almost picked it, can't believe it exists. Girl with the Bat by Idris Elba. That's right, actor Idris Elba makes house music, and it's
Go,
good.
Idris. Hell yeah.
It's another good running jam.
It Just Doesn't Happen by Destroyer. Had to just dark enough. Pain by Boy Harsher, which I definitely Shazammed at the Ping Pong Emporium in Atlanta, along with, which was in the same night that I heard Ain't It Funny, also at the Ping Pong Emporium. So I was like, these two songs are inextricably linked together now. So, sorry. And then, Sashimi has this new album called Squeeze Out. I'm not familiar with their work too much, but I feel like I've seen lots of people listening to it and getting into it. And I feel like if I had more time, if I listened to it before this challenge, I might have picked something. Probably also poppy would probably be good. Just pick a poppy song. We don't pick Grimes anymore. Grimes is out.
Girl with the Bat is a pretty good song.
I know, right? It's so much
Like,
better than it deserves to be.
Like, it passed the 2-second test, and then it went right on to, like, the minute deep test to see, like, where it was going to go.
Again, this comes on when you're running. You're having a good run.
Oh, it just goes everywhere it needs to go and has all the classic sounds that need to be had. It works.
I know. I'm saving it for later. Don't steal it.
So my two rejected repeats were... first was Lady Gaga, Bad Romance, because I thought I figured I could get on there right away because, it's Bad Romance. I could have, like, a free Gaga pass. Tyler corrected me on the group chat, so that was embarrassing. And then I was like, oh, yeah, no, this Gwen Stefani song is pretty good. I'd love to see a dance battle of this. And, man, I was wrong again. Tyler just totally pointed out that I had already picked that song again. And
Well, I picked it for you. Which is
this is the song that you picked for me?
Yeah, that was
so it kind of worked. What episode was that?
Like it's like within the first 100. 85? Yeah, episode 80, Friendly Fire 7.
Okay.
And then you chose John Wayne for Lady Gaga, but I think Taylor picked Bad Romance for
Okay.
I
So
did,
for the
episode 80, you already got it. It only took 25 more episodes, and to finally, like, take away my Gwen Stefani obvious pick, but that's why I was like, wait a second, I know I haven't picked this song. I would have remembered if I picked this song and I didn't do it. So, and then the last song that I picked but changed at the last moment because I didn't like it that much was Men Without Hats, Safety Dance. I think I was just mad at Tyler, so I was gonna make him make a commentary on the Safety Dance,
which I'm glad you did.
Yeah, that song does not need to be on the playlist.
Your words, not mine.
Sure doesn't. Well, Tyler, people can dance with you if they want to. Where can they do that?
Hey, everybody. How's it going? You can find my design and illustration work at rootpets.club. As always, on the socials, Root Pets Club on Instagram and Twitter.
Sean, if people want to leave their friends behind and follow you, where can they do that?
You can find me on Instagram at TallySean.
And if your friends don't dance, they're no friends of mine. But you can find me on the socials at TC Olmstead. All of these songs will be on the official No Repeat podcast playlist. We'll be back next week with another episode of No Repeat.